and welcome to Night Search. Join me, George Breckmann, and our founding host and host emeritus, Eddie Middleton, as we explore and search along the hidden edges of reality and our human experience. In this show, we get into UFOs, extraterrestrial contact experience, way out science, the real, mostly unknown origins of religions, governments, secret societies, and the occult. Join us here at Night Search on Blog Talk Radio every weekday night, 6 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, as we probe the human condition, how we can live better, work better, and help evolve a different world in these pivotal years of the first decades of the 21st century. Now I'd like to introduce tonight's guest, Rick Lipani. Rick has a very unusual story to tell, a very unusual perspective. He's one of the few people who actually can actively enter into and retrieve information from and hidden territory that all of us wonder about, in case you don't know who Rick Lipani is, and we're all going to find out about sooner or later, the afterlife. Welcome, Rick Lipani, and tell us how you got into this very unusual field.
Well,
I was going to say, I quote Hamlet. Hamlet speaks of that undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, but you are a traveler who has returned, and you're going to be sharing a lot of that information with us.
Yeah, I'm very blessed to be able to do so also. I started out about 30 years ago going out of body, and I thought this was normal, and I thought everyone done it. But everyone seemed to be calling them dreams, which I soon found out that these things are no such thing as dreams when one can lay there and be completely mentally awake with your body fully asleep and see yourself leave your physical body and go through walls and windows and the ceiling to enter into other dimensions and realms. And as I say to everyone, my name is Rick Lipani. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. And I've never ever had an NDE, a near-death experience. I do not see ghost spirits or apparitions, but through my out-of-body travels, I have visited many fascinating realms and dimensions, including exploring those of our afterlife, bringing back information vital to all mankind. So what basically happened within that 30 years, my wife, she got ill and she left this world and entered the afterlife. And myself, one day after her passing, she actually communicated with me from the afterlife, letting me know she was there. And what I did, I wasn't satisfied with that. I really wanted to change things. I looked into the possibilities of physical time travel and found a gentleman by the name of Stephen Gibbs who invented an HDR, a hyperdimensional resonator, that would allow you to actually do physical or non-physical time travel. So I contacted Stephen, and we talked a few times, and then I bought one of his units with the possibility of going back to undo what was done and bring my wife back to me in the physical. Well, needless to say, about 15 attempts with the unit, I was getting really kind of bored with it because it wasn't working. But after talking to Stephen a little bit more and so forth, and found myself still going out of body without the unit. But I tried to actually do physical time travel and was pretty successful in a couple attempts. But the one thing that the device did me and show me is that the one non-physical trip that I did have to go back and retrieve my wife. And this was to go back only to find out that the past can never be changed. It is already written in a vibration of time that exists in our past lives on this earth. And when I went back to actually save her from how she died, I successfully did so. But she only died a different way. But I remember the time when I went to retrieve my wife in the Afterlife area after that, because I still wasn't satisfied. I figured there's got to be a way to get her back here. So I entered the Afterlife area, which is called the reception station. And that time I went up there and I walked into a room where there was a oblong table, and there were 10 men and 4 women dressed in robes. And as I looked around the room and I looked at these people that were sitting at this table, sort of not knowing exactly where I was, but had a good sense, since it seemed like it was very divine and a holy place. And then I heard my wife's voice standing by a doorway to my right. And she said to me, "Rick, you've come to get me." And I walked over to my wife and grabbed her by the hand, and I said, "Honey, come on, let's go." But the one spirit helper, the female, had her by the other hand and said, "She cannot leave here. She gave up her earth rights." And with that, I grabbed my wife by the hand and I pulled her away from her, and we went out the door, and through the actual transitions that happen in these non-physical environments, we were outside this door, and we were in actually the cemetery where she was buried, and there was a van. So we both got in the van, and I put her in the passenger seat, and I left the cemetery gates with her, hoping I could drive her home, which was a short 5-mile trip from there. But as I looked over when I pulled out of the gates, it was true. She gave up her earth rights and could go no further. As I looked over,
now when you saw those folks in the robes, Rick, none of them had a scythe in his hand, did he?
Had a what?
A scythe in his hand, did he?
No,
none of them was holding a scythe, right? Nothing suspicious.
Right, nothing at all. They were just very calmly there.
In one of your writings, I think you said this place resembled a gigantic airport. Is that right?
Well, it's sort of like a large international bus terminal, or it is just massive when you go inside. And when you go inside, there are places in there where you can sit, you can eat, you can have something to drink, you can converse with people. There are even places in there where you can buy lottery tickets that are something that is an actual representation of what is on Earth. Because, see, what happened a long time ago when spirits came back to Earth, and this is how it was written religiously, that when spirits came back and told them about this place and told them what they could do there, that they could eat there, they could drink there. Well, a lot of the people that were writing the scriptures at the time said, well, this can't be heaven and this can't be hell. It's got to be right in the middle, so we'll call it purgatory. But what it is a reception station, okay? And it is a place where we all go to, where we are all, once we leave our physical bodies for the last time, we are met by family, friends, loved ones, spouses, and so forth, and probably countless, hundreds of other spirits that have been around us our whole life.
Now, Rick,
take us to this. Yes.
You say you can get something to eat there, you can buy a lottery ticket there. I guess you don't need a customs officer or customs station because you can't take it with you, right?
Well, absolutely, yes. And the thing of it is, everything there is, there is no charge, there is no cost. You just take what you want, or ask for what you want. And if you go online, I think there's even a gentleman, who was following me with my out-of-body travels and so forth when I was with Marilyn Monroe. And he was doing some into that, and he decided that he wanted to go out of body too. And in his voyages, he went to see his father, but to see his deceased father. And it's written that way on the internet. One of the pages that's there, and it's his meeting with the actor Chris Farley. And he met Chris Farley at the reception station. And Chris Farley was buying actually took an actual lottery ticket. And, and he was actually talking to him, and he did finally meet his father up there too. But I think his energy was running low, so something happened where he had to come back. But, what I speak of, it is there. It has always been there. And it always changes from decade to century to really conform to when people do leave their physical life, they enter this non-physical life, and they don't want it to be a big shock.
Rick, is it just people from our plane, or are we going to see beings from other dimensions up there also, that are living on other planets?
Well, let me explain to you how first, and yes, but I'll explain to you first. Thousands and thousands of years ago, every planet in the universe, was inhabited. They are not now. They are inhabited, but only by spiritual beings that have reached such a level of evolution that they do not need the physical form anymore. But if you go back to the beginning, there were planets in our solar system that were planets of Chinese, planets of African Americans, planets of Italians, planets of Greeks, planets of Mexicans. And what happened through those actual evolvements, through the actual universe and Earth itself, a lot of those beings with spiritual masters came to Earth to create and actually create those forms here in different regions of the United States and throughout the world. This is why only some people in the world, like in the Asian countries, the eyes are almond-shaped and slanted, but they are not here. There were planets of every race and every language. So the actual, in the beginning in the Bible and everything of the Tree of Babel is sort of true, but it was already existed here from them bringing their languages with us. And even if you go to Mars right now, where the rover, I hear, has landed over the last couple days, the new rover there, if you go to Mars, it is booming with life, but spiritual life. Everything is layered on top.
When we arrive there, we're not going to see somebody from Zeta Reticuli or from Orion or from Andromeda with tentacles or antennae or anything like that, right?
Nothing at all. You're not going to see any physical life.
Okay.
But if you but if you are able to go non-physical up into Mars, you would see that it is booming with non-physical life and cities and all the people that used to live there and the cities that were there at one time.
Now, Rick, you told me that, I believe at one time, that you do meet people up there in the Afterlife Realm that are from other dimensions than Earth, and that they're not all human-looking.
Well, yes, they are all humanoid. The humanoid shape has been in existence for eons, and all actual beings are humanoid. They are all Sector 7 beings, which have a neck, a head, 2 arms, 2 legs, and a torso. And this is the standard blueprint for actual human life, as we call it, throughout the universe.
How many sectors are there, Rick? And is this just a geographic location in the multiverse, this sector, as you call it?
Oh, no, the actual Sector 7 beings, of being an actual 7-piece actual human being with a neck, the head, the torso, 2 arms, 2 legs.
Body parts, okay.
Yes, body parts. And but there are other insectoids, there are other animals, just as there are animals here and insects here on our Earth that have 8 legs. There are other creatures up there, but not with the human blueprint. So, but you'll find this fascinating too, that there are a lot of other races from other galaxies, other planets, spiritual beings.
Now, Rick, if somebody wants to learn more about your studies and your discoveries, you spent 3 years doing exploration, as I understand, and you've published something called The Truth About Our Afterlife and The Truth About Time Travel. Are these DVDs or are they books? And how can people order
DVDs? Yes, they're DVDs. They're on my website. They can be ordered. And also,
don't forget our book, Rick.
Oh yeah. Hi, Pat. How are you, dear? Yes, and Pat. All right. Okay. And Patricia Ress has written a book based on my movie called Beyond Earthly Knowledge. Okay, called Beyond Earthly Knowledge. And it's a wonderful book, and it details a great deal of my experiences. And I also have my other 2 books on that are out, and one is Beyond the Realm, We Are More Than Physical Beings, and the other book is called Wandering Through Time. And those are both out.
What's the name of your website, Rick, so people can reach you? What's the name of your website?
Yes, it's www.timetravelrealm.bravehost.com. And if they go to my main homepage on the website, if you go to the left-hand side, there are a lot of other links on there, and there's a link also to my other website, which is Afterlife Realm, and that answers probably just about everybody's question about the afterlife, entry to it, what it was, how we began, evolution, how we were created, what was happening, and how we got here, and so forth, and many other things along with reincarnation and suicide and many other things. So there's a wealth of information on there that I just solely just give for free. I don't charge for any of this.
Well, Rick, you know we're based in Memphis, Tennessee, right?
Yes.
And one thing we got from our listeners, a couple of emails Eddie and I got prior to the show, we've just got to ask you, dude, there's no way around this. What happened to Elvis?
Yes.
Well, if you, I'll tell you one thing right now. I was in Memphis, and I was actually doing speaking engagements there with Eddie, and I decided to go over to Graceland, and you weren't allowed to take any type of video cameras in, but I had one outside. And as I was outside, I caught Elvis himself, and this was back in 2008, I believe, or 2007 maybe.
I think so.
Yeah, and it wasn't that long ago. And Elvis was standing, looking over one of the side walls, and did what he always did and watched his fans file in. And I have the high-definition video on YouTube that has over 400,000 hits. And, I mean, it shows a picture of Elvis. I'm not going to show it exactly clear as a bell, but I have the footage there, and it is for sale for any news media that wanted it. But if not, that's okay. But that showed Elvis there at the age of 73. Now, since then, I'm not sure, but I will tell you this, about 6 months after that, I came back and I tried to contact Elvis and out of body, and I ended up standing in the front lawn of Graceland with Elvis Presley and my wife in the non-physical forms. And Elvis then took me, because they know pretty much a lot of things in the non-physical. And he took me right back to Cleveland, Ohio, to a place that is torn down now, but it used to be there, and he played there, called the Cleveland Arena. And I got to see a little bit of his concert, how he really performed back in Cleveland back in I think it was 55 or 56, or maybe a little bit later. And he expressed to me that this is what he really loved, and he missed all this. And these things to him were the greatest thing that he did with his music, and that was to actually, make people feel good and enjoy his music and give a lot of hope and a lot of joy. And after the little visit there, I came back, and the next morning, I contacted my wife out of body through the device that I created, which is an EVC, electronic voice communication. And I asked her, I said, Kathy, last night I was out of body and was in the non-physical with you and Elvis. Was that Elvis's spirit or his living spirit? Meaning that Elvis was still alive, but he was out of body also at the request of my wife while he was sleeping. And the reply to me was, yes, you and me. So it was at that time that Elvis was still alive. At this time, I'm not sure. But there was supposed to be a book coming out about him, about a woman that was with Elvis for a lot of years and took pictures of him standing next to 2000, 2001, 2002 Cadillacs, in front of dealerships, in front of restaurants that were not even in existence after his death. So,
these pictures in the National Enquirer or where else?
No. This is a woman who has all these images and all the things that she was talking with Elvis over the years and communicating with him and the book and everything that he told her. And the book is supposed to be coming out after Elvis's death. So
fascinating.
Whether
Rick, you can go to the future. You can go to other places. You can retrieve information from the afterlife and bring it back here. And I think one of the most interesting things I read about you was that, and I'm not sure the details, maybe you can share them with our listeners now, that you springboarded forward into the future. And if I'm not wrong, you correct me on the date, you end up in China, and the year is 2315. What on earth was that all about?
That was an amazing journey. I mean, the buildings that were designed there, and you have to understand it was a non-physical 2315, okay? And it was, the buildings were of a sort of aluminum, but it was transparent. You could see through it. It wasn't glass. And there was a lot of gold and brass and these buildings and so forth. And the cars that were on the streets were amazing. They were completely quiet, and they were magnetic propulsion cars that were generated totally by magnetic propulsion. And it was amazing, though. The one thing I remember is I was standing there on the other side of the street, and I seen a car pull in, and it pulled into a spot, and the person got out and went into a building right on that same side of the street. And, the car, all of a sudden, it just made like a clicking noise, and the whole car and the parking space did a full 180-degree turn and went underground, and that's where it went to, I guess, a parking garage, which was amazing to see that. And after that, I walked across the street, and I walked into the same building that the woman walked into, the Chinese woman. And all it said on the thing, there was a actual optical projection on the glass. As soon as you entered the door, it said, "Welcome to June 12th, 2315." And it spoke to you, which was just amazing. But there's been just so many other places that I have been. I've been back to 1768, back to 1868 in Canada. I've been back to actually stand in front of a herd of Brachiosaurus, back before man even walked the earth, as they played in a small lake in front of me that was probably 20 feet away. These wonderful, very, wonderful creatures.
Now, would anybody using this hyperdimensional resonator, which basically, as I understand, is kind of a radionics machine, a lot of people who have played with radionics machines, built them and so on, has the sticky plate and all that, magnetic coil, dials, etc.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Would anybody be able to get out of body and travel the way you've traveled, or are there special exercises you have to do in order to be able to achieve this altered state?
Well, Sure. Well, Stephen Gibbs did state at one time that I was probably the one that was just about the most, the best at using the device, And whether I don't know if there are any others that have used it as well or have documented as many journeys that I have. Even Stephen himself has logged many, many journeys. And I think someday somebody's going to find his logbook and be really surprised when they read that. But anybody can do it. It's basically a radionics machine, but Stephen Gibbs has actually taken it one step further with generating electronic diodes inside the machine and turned it into a white light generator. So it's a radionics machine with a white light generator, which has the capability of electromagnetically transferring energy into your body to make yourself prepared with the electromagnetic energy for your actual spirit body to feed off of, so it can easily lift out of body. Because all of us every night, we do this in what scientists have called the sleep state or REM sleep, which is totally false. They just used REM because they couldn't really figure it out any other way. But I'll explain really quickly what happens to you. When all of us go to sleep at night, what happens is once we drift off into this deep sleep, into this state of actual mental unconsciousness, where the body falls asleep, but the mind still stays awake. And we're not awake to understand what is going on. What takes place is an actual mechanism, all right, of actually preventing us from moving. Are you there?
Yes, we've got hypnagogic sleep where our body is in sleep paralysis. We've got sleep paralysis.
Right, it is a sleep paralysis mechanism that kicks in. Right, and what happens is, what happens is that science actually seen the eyelids moving under the eyes, so they they didn't understand what was going on, so they call it REM sleep, rapid eye movement. But basically what is happening is at that point, the individual's spirit has already left the body. The spirit being has left the body and is connected by a electromagnetic cord called a silver cord, which generates information back to him. And he is actually going through these actual experiences that he's going through. And the reason why the sleep paralysis mechanism is in place, so he doesn't hurt himself when he's acting out and actually experiencing these other dimensions. But a lot of people, the sleep paralysis mechanism is weak, and this is why you account for people falling out of bed or sleepwalking.
Now, Steve, Rick, let me ask you this. You go to China,
yes,
and the greeting is in English, and you understand it, so I guess English has continued to steamroller and become the universal language by this time.
Let me explain something to you. A few months ago, I was in France, all right, and I spent a glorious month with a beautiful woman, and was making love to her almost every day, And the thing of it is that while I was there, I spoke fluent French, but understood in English. So basically,
that's an interesting. Rick, that's a point
pretty
you might
universal.
Want to make about, when the time changes. Like you might have seemed like a month or two you were there in France or in Paris and all, but actually in ordinary clock time in our realm, maybe you were only out of your body for an hour or two or something.
Yeah, but 2-3 hours. Yes, it's a fascinating displacement. I must say that.
Now, you said in one of your journeys forward that Earth will undergo an axis pole shift, basically, at some point in the near future. Okay.
Not a pole shift. It is a higher level of consciousness that we will be entering into, just as all those that were on other planets in the universe have entered into that higher level of consciousness to be non-physical.
Is that happening in 2012?
Yes,
it is happening right now?
It is happening right now to many people. And I have a 2012. Well, the thing of it is, to a lot of people that are really good in heart and a good mind and a good conscious level of helping people and understanding people and having a very, very sincere emotional quality towards others, they will probably not really understand that there was a change. The ones that are going to have the trouble with the change are those that are struggles with greed and power. And you're finding that out now that you're seeing a lot of people like Madoc and so forth who are spending a lot of time for their greed over their Ponzi schemes and things, and other government local officials, how they're starting to be in a place where they just don't understand now because their life has changed so drastically. And others that are causing so much havoc in this earth by mass murders and killings by negative entities that are trying to control and stop this actual conscious evolution of mankind, which is for the better. And once we reach this conscious evolution, the next evolutionary step after this will be for us to all of us shed our physical bodies and be totally non-physical. Because you see, the earth and its beings right now, we are the last actual planet to go through this evolution in the universe.
And how does the shedding of the bodies take place? Were we just going to all die and we end up as spirit energy? Does the planet get blown up?
No, what will happen slowly to us is that we will feel that we will not need the physical body anymore, and the physical body will be shed little by little and return into the elements as the spiritual body and the spiritual mind of man becomes more into his own. And the spiritual body will just defile off into elements and go back into the universe, the same elements that we were all created from.
So you mean fewer and fewer of us then will choose to incarnate? Is that what you're trying to say will happen?
Well, here's the thing. Okay, we're going to open up another can of worms, I think. See, everybody believes in reincarnation because a lot of people say it is so. I have been over into the afterlife areas, and I have spoke with many higher spirits, and I have even been given a golden orb that was sent towards me and entered my being from the man that walked the earth in the very early years and generations of the earth by the name of Jesus. And total reincarnation is a myth, and it cannot happen. And I will tell you that, and it's not a religious fact. It is an actual spiritual fact. If you'll just bear with me for 1 minute, and I will explain it completely to you in a nutshell.
Please do.
What happens is that in the universe right now, floating around, there are billions and billions of formless souls, actual beings that have an actual identity, an emotional quality, feelings. And there are a lot of other beings from other solar systems mingling in with that want a chance to do this life experience, to incarnate into a biological form. Now, once these souls get close to Earth, they enter close to an actual child that is born or being born in the womb. And what they do is they stay close to that being and close to it and hover it. Because what is happening to that child that is in the womb right now, that is breathing, the heart is breathing, the lungs are functioning, it is connected by the umbilical cord to the mother. And the mother is supplying that child with these nutrients. And it is also taking a part of her spirit and soul to share while the baby is in the mother's womb. Now, what happens at the time of birth, called the quickening, is that once the cord is cut, the actual spirit that is standing by the soul enters this actual living biological being, and it automatically creates an actual spirit duplicate of this actual newborn being that has been created. And together, this soul, mind, and spirit body grow up to maturity, to adulthood. Now, what happens
Now you're saying that all of these souls are hovering near the child, and it's kind of a lottery, and then one of them is chosen.
No, it's not a lottery. There's a lot of souls hovering around the atmosphere. These souls come into play. They could be a part of a soul group or a soul family, or it could be relatives that says, that I would really like to take on this life experience. And I seen your family generation, how it was, and I admired the life that you lived, and I wish I could be a part of that. So that is the soul that is chosen and taken to put into this child and to become an adult spirit. Now, what happens is once that spirit and that adult grows to full maturity, and now it comes time in its life when that spirit, that body, that biological being, either through an illness or an accident, and it could be early in life, it could be later in life, it could be 100 years later in life. What happens is that actual spirit body leaves along with the mind, the special appendage of the soul, and they all leave together as one special unit because they have created an individuality, an identity. And now that body that is left behind goes back into the elements of the earth and the air and the environment to create other sources of life, whether they be human, plant, or animal. Now, what basically happens there is that for reincarnation to take place, that soul would have to jump into another body at birth. But this cannot happen because would you yourself, let me ask you the question of who you are now, would you choose, once you left this physical earth, in a non-physical spiritual body with your soul in mind, decide that you don't want that identity anymore and you want to take on another identity and just distinguish exactly everything that you were, everything that you learned, everything now that you could teach others that have never, ever incarnated into a biological being on this physical earth. So this is why it is impossible for it to happen. The same as it is impossible for, you've heard of walk-ins. This cannot happen. There can be influence, but there cannot be a spirit walk-in. Because just like an actual pair of size 6 shoes, a man with size 10 feet cannot enter those shoes. And the same thing is for a spirit. A new spirit cannot enter the home of a spirit's body that was its home, its total life. It just does not fit. It's like putting 220 into 110. It won't happen.
How do you decide where you end up going? You mentioned that you end up in Canada, and it's 1878. You were in Canada. Do you decide which place? Do you focus on it before you enter this altered state? How did you pick China in 15, or does it just pick you?
Many of the times that I do, I actually state myself if I'm using the HDR or if I'm not. I also just state when I lay back and meditate, I would like to go back to the building of the pyramids, or I would like to go back to see the prehistoric dinosaurs, or I would like to go back to the future in the year 2300.
Was there a particular reason why you picked Canada in 1878, and what part of Canada? What were you there to view? That's a mysterious statement.
Well, I was just there. I just chose to go back into the past in the 1800s. Now, like it's not a pinpoint thing. I just can't say I want to go to 1920 and on this date, and it'll put me right there. It won't, because it doesn't work that way, because you really have to know the complete vibration that you're dealing with. The only way that you could really go back and pinpoint something is, say, for instance, if someone gave you a coin from 1920, and you were just rubbing that coin and meditating while you went out of body. And when you went out of body, as soon as your body fell asleep and your mind stayed awake, your physical body would go out with that same determination of finding this era of 1920. Unless you specified a date while you were meditating over and over again until your soul has left its body. And then and only then can you actually come close to pinpointing an actual reference time in the past. And the past is a lot easier to get to because it is a vibration. And if you can visualize this, of yourself standing there at the bottom of a large V, the letter V, all right? And while you're standing there, everything that is in your past tense, from everything you've done 5 minutes ago to 5 years ago, is flowing in a backward stream up this V into a past area written into vibration. While in the front of you, the other portion of the V is the future as it's coming down to actually visualize and recreate and actually be part of the future that as it enters Earth and your space. So you have this continuous V of energy that is flowing around you, around every one of us, around this whole Earth. And what happens is the actual future that is actually coming in to be written into our present is up as a probable future. Because
Rick,
I can go back
and identify ourselves. This is Night Search on Blog Talk Radio. We're interviewing tonight Rick Lipani. And Rick, please give again, right quick, like for our listeners who might want to follow up and check out your DVDs, how they can reach us and how they can order your DVDs and know how to get more information about you.
Sure, they can go to my website, but which is really easier. All they have to do is Google the name Rick Lipani, and everything in the World Wide Web will come up about me, including my website. Right. Lipani, sir, yes.
Right. Okay.
And,
I'd like to say something here for our listeners who maybe are thinking, this guy is way out there. This is so absolutely unbelievable, these accounts, and this just too far-fetched. I would like to just share the experience I had with Rick when he was in Memphis that made a believer out of me. If you don't mind, it'd take a couple of minutes to tell this story. When he was speaking in Memphis here, it's been like 4 years ago, I think, Rick. He was staying at the Fogelman Center on Central Avenue across from the Holiday Inn, and I was going to meet him there in the morning. We were going to go have breakfast, or maybe it was a lunch, early lunch before his speaking engagement at Jason's Deli, which was only about half a mile away, but Rick didn't know how to get there. So I was going to have him just follow me, and to the deli, which is just down the street, and take a right and go down and take a left. You're there. Well, we were pulling out on Central Avenue, and I was looking at his car, my rear view mirror, making sure he's right behind me. I turned left on Central Avenue, and looked again in the rear view mirror, and he was not there. I said, now, wait a minute. He was right behind me. Where in the world did he go? Did he just pull off a side street or something? Why would he do that? And I was totally baffled and afraid, gosh, he's not going to be able to find the deli. And I kept driving and just trying to figure it out. And I had nothing I could do but just keep going to the deli. I went, when I pulled up at the deli, maybe 5 minutes later, he was already there. His car was parked. He was standing outside his car waiting on me. And I said, what in the world? How did you get here? What? And he teleported, he said. It just got there before me. And I could never explain this if it was a practical joke. I still don't know how he pulled it off. Now, Rick, that really happened, did it not? And that made a believer out of me,
Well, what happens is I do that constantly. I don't have any control over it. But I was waiting there about 15 minutes.
Wow.
Wondering where you were. But basically, I was going to tell you this also, that this past Sunday, I decided to go up to the corner store, which is about 3 miles away. And I went up there, I think it was right before 2 o'clock. And I remember coming out of the store. And to come out of the store, you have to go down another road that is probably about a good 2 miles long, and there's railroad tracks there. And then you have to make another right and go down the road, probably about a good half a mile before you get to the entrance to where I turn in to where I live. Well, once I left the store, I got up to the street where I'm supposed to turn, and I was just thinking of getting home quick, and I just don't know what happened, but I left at 2 o'clock. I seen it was 2 o'clock on my car radio on the clock. It was 2 o'clock, and it's usually about a 5-minute trip. And within, I'll bet you maybe 2 seconds of me knowing that I was right at that street where I had to turn, I was pulling into the actual entrance to where I live. And the clock said 2:01. So it was to me it was just amazing. A lot of times I just don't even know how it happens, but I've been just so infused
and don't really know how you compress time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, Rick, one of the things you get into a little bit, and that we run into a lot of people that have this ability, and one of our friends there in Memphis is really, really good at doing this. She is a medium, and by golly, she can stand in front of an audience, talk to people, talk to your Uncle Ted, and she will tell you things that only you and Uncle Ted talked about.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
How does this work? What's really going on with a medium?
Well, see, what you have to understand with mediums, all right, they can actually see. Some of them are clairvoyants, some are clairaudience. They can either see spirit and hear spirit, or some can either do one or the other. But what they can only actually do is communicate with earthbound spirits or brighter spirits that have come down and adjusted their level of vibration to the earthbound condition to where they can contact with them. But most, and I'm going to say, go out on a limb here because I know for a fact 99% or better of all mediums cannot enter the afterlife areas of the higher realms. I myself go out of body and I enter those realms and have seen so many beautiful places, like Crystal Mountain Valley when I was there, which is just mountains that are made out of total crystal that dwarf the Himalayas and Mount Everest. And it's lush and beautiful and green. But the mediums that here are on Earth can only communicate with those that are earthbound, or as I said, the brighter spirits that have entered the afterlife and have taken their vibration down to commensurate with the level of the earthbound condition and to communicate.
I hear you, man. If I'm in the Crystal Mountain and it's like that, I probably don't want to talk to anybody back here either. It sounds like an awesome place. Tell us about some of the other realms.
I also have I have pictures of it. If you go to my Afterlife Realm website, there's an actual, there's about 30 or 40, 30 or, it's on my website to the left-hand side. It's a link. But I have about 35, 40 images of artwork that I created from what I have seen in the afterlife areas and other dimensions.
Afterliferealm.org or .com or what?
It's after. If you go to my website and go to the links, it's afterliferealm.bravehost.com. But the link is a lot easier to get to on my website if you look up Afterlife Realm.
All right, can do. Sounds good.
And it's very, very extraordinary.
Because we build this show as the topography of the afterlife. So just give us a map for our viewers of what's over there. What are we going to run into when we kick the bucket?
Okay. Well, the thing of it is, what a lot of people don't understand is, even a lot of nurses, a lot of people that actually are witnessing their loved ones dying, they see things all around them and they think they're delirious or basically it's time for them to go. They're almost gone, you know. But what they don't understand is, if they did understand the non-physical world, how it works, all their loved ones, all their friends, all their families, if they could visualize and see on that dimension or level as a medium would in that room where they're at right now, they would see thousands of spirits welcoming them and ready by the main person there of a loved one who has been designated to take their spirit by the hand and lead them over into the reception station area. Now, what happens is people say lost souls. Let me tell you that that's a fallacy, too. There are no lost souls. Each and every one of us gets met by someone and taken to the reception station area where we meet all our friends. We enjoy a very joyous time. We meet higher, brighter spirits and are shown around the great city that is there. Around the lake that is there, around the park area where so many spend so much of their time. And basically once they're there, they are then told that there is a condition to all this, and you can be here forever, and you can live here forever when you choose. But by the defilement that happened in your life to your soul, such as drugs or alcohol or what you have done to others or have hurt others, by law, by universal law of creation, you must go to the place now where the soul condition is happiest. And that means either an earthbound condition. Are you there? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And they must go to the place where the soul is the happiest. So basically, it is mainly the earthbound condition, and the thing of it is, there is no, total damnation. Nothing is eternal. This is all remedial for the actual soul's purpose of removing these things from his soul and purifying it so he could go on to live in a better condition of life and go back to the reception station and to live on one of many of the planes that are there on that sixth sphere of consciousness.
So it's all set up for us to evolve, to keep evolving when we're over there.
Absolutely. And we all, once we're over there, we all become either teachers or share our experiences with others who have not been fortunate enough to have the experiences that some of us have had. And they can live those experiences through us. So it is totally a remarkable thing. And I mean, one could show 1 million souls of how they lived on Earth here that never experienced that, and that could last for an eternity.
And I think, speaking of time, you said in one of your writings that I read that one Earth year equals 330,000 years on the other side. Is that correct? Or 330 years? How on earth does this work? And how do you know this?
It is a reference of time that is... See, the thing of it is, what you have to understand is every living organism on the physical Earth right now, the atoms are moving very slow vibration. So they are in accordance with the vibration of time that man created on this Earth to calculate and schedule his events, when to get up, when to go to work, and so forth. So it had to be in accordance with the actual speed and vibration of those atoms that are all moving inside of us at that vibrational speed. Now, once you get into the spiritual realm and you get into these other dimensions and you get into the afterlife dimensions, you are talking roughly about those atoms moving 1,000 times faster. So in accordance, time, or your relation to time and events, also moves faster.
Okay, so a denser versus a lighter vibratory plane.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, Rick, like you say, there's times you would go and it would seem like in the afterlife realm you'd spend a whole day on the other side visiting with your wife, and then when you come back to your body, maybe only less than an hour had elapsed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like it works out to basically roughly about 20 minutes of Earth time out of body is equivalent to almost 5 days in the afterlife areas.
And Rick, I've got to ask you, a lot of people, including Dr. Kenneth Ring, who wrote the Omega Project, and many others, have speculated about the connection between NDEs, near-death experiences, and contact experience. And we do a lot of ufology here. And I just have to ask, I see the same parallel popping up. People will say, okay, I was gone. People notice that the person is gone from their house, for maybe 3 or 4 hours. But it seems like when they're with ET, they're over there, wherever there is, in this other dimension.
Right.
For what feels like weeks, they come back with reams of information. So
right.
this is sort of a time relativity thing there, too.
Well, this is what what I'll explain completely to you, that even these people do get with so-called ETs or other beings that are from other places. They are not physical beings. They are actual spiritual beings that have the ability to come into our dimension and appear just as solid as we are, and to actually have craft to get around in this environment that is just as solid as any of our transportation mode vehicles are here. But what happens once you go with them, you enter into this other dimension, a spiritual dimension. This is what they do. They take you there. And a lot of people, believe it or not, that have been taken like that, don't go anywhere. They just take their spirit body with them. And while these people are either left somewhere else, the physical bodies So they're not found, they're not harmed, and they are actually well taken care of. But their spiritual beings are with these highly advanced beings that have evolved great level. That you will see a lot of those beings in the afterlife also. As a matter of fact, a lot of beings that are from other dimensions that enter into our physical dimension as ETs actually have incarnated into actual physical earth biological beings just to live this life experience on earth here that they've heard so much about, because there is no place like it in the universe.
Which would explain then, Rick, why some people's past life memories, so to speak, are not of this earth. They describe conditions that are definitely not from around here.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. And see, the thing of it is, a lot of times you'll hear in India where they have actually regressed someone, and they told them that they were a Buddhist king or a Buddhist priest in such a century. What you have to understand, there is a lot of negative entities on this earth that were once physical living beings that were very evil when they were on earth. And when they did leave here through the transition, they never cared to get rid of their defilements. They never cared to move on to a better condition of life. Instead, they tried to build their own regime of others that were just as evil as they were. And this is why the evil on this earth is in constant motion. And once you get psychiatrists and so forth, which to me, if they don't know what they're doing and they don't know the spiritual realm, they should not practice hypnosis or past life regression, because there is no such thing. All they are getting is a negative entity probing their mind, because at that time when they are actually trying to regress someone, they are thinking, I wonder what I could find in the mind of this individual. How far does he go back? Does he go back 100 years? And they are using all this information, these evil entities, to say, oh yes, 100 years ago, I was a Buddhist priest, and now I have incarnated in this body, which, it'll come right through the vocal cords of the individual, the biological being, because they now have control of this actual physical human. So, I mean, if psychiatrists, past life regressionists, if they knew the damage and the harm they were doing when they play back this tape to these individuals and put this in their mind, all they are doing is setting them up to be controlled by the evil, the same evil that perpetrated that lie to this past life regressionist or psychiatrist or hypnotist.
Well, if these are not valid ways to explore other dimensions, how hard would it be for other people to get Stephen Gibbs' device and do something similar to what you do and get out of their skin and go in a conscious state and explore?
Well, the thing of it is, we do it every night, and you could do it without the Stephen Gibbs device.
I know. Well, we can do it where we actually remember it, and we can navigate.
Well,
you're pretty much navigating there.
Well, I pretty much give people a nuts and bolts thing for free, and all you have to do really is you can't use this as a novelty. You can't use this as a fun time prank. If you want to do this, you have to be committed to it, and you have to put some actual time into it. Well, like even myself, before I go further, I'll tell you, like I get about 800 emails a week, and I'm telling you, it's a lot of people wanting to know what the lotto numbers are going to be, who's going to win the World Series, who's going to win the Super Bowl, how I can make money, and I have given. Go ahead.
We've got a minute left, so if you want to just summarize, and then we'll have to close out here.
Okay, yeah, I'll summarize it real quick.
30 seconds to summarize here.
And basically, I've basically given the Super Bowl winners 3 years in a row for these people, or I get people that want to go back out of time and actually undo an act that hurt them, and they want to do it for revenge, which is totally wrong.
Well, Chuck, I won't be able to ask you for a stock tip then. That's too bad. Anyway,
yeah,
folks, we've been having a fascinating discussion here. Eddie Middleton, Pat Ress, and myself, George Breckmann, here with Rick Lipani. Rick has a terrific website. If you just Google Lipani, Rick Lipani. The topography of the afterlife is quite a story. You've been listening to Night Search every evening, weekday night, 6 to 7. Night Search brings you the bizarre, the otherworldly, the side of the story you just might not have heard anywhere else. Remember, it's outrageous information, but it's all true. Good night, folks.
Good night. Thanks, Rick.
Good night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.